All right, today what we're going to do, this is a part of a John Deere feed mill. This is a pivot point where the arm swings out. These are notorious for breaking and cracking, and over the years they're getting harder and harder to find. It is made of a cast type material. As you can see here, it has been previously welded before it got to me, and in turn it's cracked all over itself again. Even some new ones up here. On the inside here, looks like there was no base metal prep conditioning at all, which is probably why it has failed again, you know, even with no pressure on it. Individual told me that when he even went to put it on, he said that he noticed new cracks in it and cracks through the weld he just got fixed. So as you can see here, this looks like it may have even been welded with a 6011 welding rod. Can it be done? Yeah, sure, it can be. Is it a good idea to? No, it's not. It's not at all. It's not going to hold. It may hold for a day or two, get you through a tight spot. But as you can see, the extreme gouging in there, that's not the way. And as you can tell, you know, this is supposed to be done 1 inch at a time and skipping all over the project itself to spread the heat. And obviously that wasn't done, so when it cooled, it just went ahead and cracked itself. What we're gonna do is actually, I've got it cleaned off. I'm gonna dig, I'm gonna prep it. I'm gonna go ahead and grind some of these welds out. I'm gonna get it cleaned up, and then I'm actually gonna put it in the oven, in the house, actually, the household oven at about 500 degrees for an hour or so, get it good and hot. I'm gonna come out here and I'm gonna weld it at 1 inch at a time, jumping all over, and go from there. And then I'll put it back in the oven at 200 degrees and probably leave it for a few hours. You can actually throw this in a bucket of sand with sand on top, and it'll cool itself slowly. Depending on how hot this is and how long it takes, we might end up doing that instead. All right, here we got it cleaned up. Grind it out as best as I could. As you can see down in there, there's a lot of cracks in there. Pretty deep ones too. I think that one there goes all the way through. As you can see over here, there's some porosity in there from the previous welds. And you see all those crystalline hair cracks? That goes all the way back through that weld that was on it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think that's going to hold. I don't think that's really fixable. But we're going to try it. I got about an 80% success rate on this cast stuff, and when they're this far gone, that's the 20% that's not going to work. As you can see, a lot of them cracks have come all the way through from that previous weld. They're all up in that corner. That's bad in there. That's probably not going to work. And crack that comes all the way up to the side here too. We're going to try it. This part here actually sits down and the auger runs through that end, so there doesn't need to be a lot of weld sticking out here. It's going to interfere with the feed pickup on it. And so whatever we put in here, if I do put anything in here, we'll probably have to be grinded back down flush, especially on this part here. This part here is a flat spot, a flat area, and it will have to be cleaned up. Now this up here is more of a beveled edge to help, like a funnel. So I left this weld here. We don't want to disturb any welds if we don't have to. And a lot of times I don't even do no finish grinding on these because of that. I want to keep as much reinforcement on there as possible. Now I'm not saying we're gonna have half-inch welds sticking up off the top of this thing. And that's one of the reasons for grinding them cracks out, for deeper penetration and to help lower that weld profile. And in there, you're just not gonna be able to grind. So whatever stays in there is in there. And hopefully we can burn some of that porosity out. This over here is going to be the issue. So I'm going to throw it in the oven, heat it up 500 degrees for an hour or so, and then we're going to come out here with some special rods and try it. All right, so I got it out of the oven. As you can see, I cooked it in there for about an hour and a half at 500 degrees. You can see in there, it's hot still. And you see the difference in the color on that weld that was made before the other welds. Now it's got that bright sheen to it. that tells me it's not a cast weld. This over here is. This weld here is a cast weld, and that's why it's held. Alright, for welding this cast, I'm going to use an Alcam 61 rod. It's kind of like a NiCad rod. I'm going to be using a 1/8. As you can see, it requires about a 65 to 120 amps. You need to run it at the bottom end of your amperage range, so we don't it doesn't crack as much. It's going to weld kind of like a 6011, but it'll sit up on top of the base metal, so you got to kind of watch it too. Okay, you make sure you're peening every single weld. After each weld, you want to start on the previous weld and walk back. Do not stop on the cast, and you kind of want to do a back step onto the weld as you stop. Alright, I started doing some skipping around here. As you can see, it's got some holes in it. Burn a hole in that piece there. Big old spot of porosity in the back side. And some more over there. Okay, that's going to happen. This gap up here is so wide, I'm probably going to have to run a couple of stringers on here to get it. It runs kind of like a stainless rod, where it doesn't want to lay down. It doesn't want to. You got to avoid your weave beads on here. So just keep that in mind. All right, I got most of it down in there. I had to burn about 3 holes in it. It's real thin where I grinded, but I got it closed up. And running up this side, as you can see, I got 3 stitches in there. Now I'm gonna start working on this side and filling back into this way too, and connecting these down here. Remember, we want to keep jumping around, peen after every weld. All right, put a few more on it there. Opened up to a big hole down here on the bottom side. I think I got it patched up. I'm starting to overcoat some of these others here now. I think we got this down here wrapped up pretty good, pretty decent. Problem is over here on this edge, as you can see, I welded that one about 10 minutes ago, and I see that it's cracked back open. That is probably the beginning of the end, honestly. I got to put another weld in here, and I got one on the inside. But you can see where that weld went down there. That previous weld that I grinded out has crystallized and made a bunch more cracks, and that's the one I was worried about there. That's just opened back up. So I'm gonna try to clean that up a little bit and go in and put one on it from the back side. I'll have to grind everything down back here, especially where I burnt through all them holes on the back side. That's gonna be tough. Got a little bit more to do, and I think we're just gonna watch this one here and make sure that it doesn't open up anymore. If that's the case, this is probably done. All right, this is it. Got it done up, fixed a couple cracks in there that sprung up in it. A couple on this side too, down that edge, and then a few here in the middle. Go ahead and do some grinding around. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the sand now. Make sure it gets down in there good. All right, let's check it here. It's actually still a little bit warm. Pull it up out of here and see what we got. See how many cracks we got. It's actually cooled down pretty good. Let's see what we got here. So no cracks in there. That's where we had a couple cracks pop back up. No cracks down in there. Let's see what the inside looks like here. Do some grinding up there anyway. All right, so I think it did pretty well. It's about an hour in the sand over there. Just cooled it down enough to touch, and it don't look like we have any cracks in it yet. I am going to do a little bit of grinding, maybe knock some of these sharp edges off, get some of these turds off of there. Not really worried about the profile too much, as it's a disaster, but I'm gonna knock them high saws off, shape this up a little bit. But I have to grind all this in here, up here flat. I have to grind it flat so it doesn't interfere with the auger, so it'll pick up the grain. Going to do that, and then I'll get back with you and show you what it looks like. All right, got it cleaned up, ground down a little bit. I don't want to grind too much off of there. I want to leave some reinforcement on there. I realize it's not the prettiest. I get that. I'm not worried about it, actually. Didn't see any new cracks in it. That's all cleaned up, grinded up in there. You see all them other cracks? That's just from I'm assuming from the first weld that it's just split all up like that. That's nothing new. I actually smoothed that one out a little bit, tried to blend it in. But these down here I definitely grinded flush and cleaned up in there so that auger has not a chance to hit on anything. Don't see any new cracks on it. On the cool down process and smooth up, I'm gonna clean it up a little bit, put a shot coat of paint on it, get it back to him, and hope for the best.